I would like to call to order the Richland County Development and Services Committee meeting for April 26, 2022. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Pugh?
Here.
Horatio? Here. Barron?
Here.
English? And Newton?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Item 2 on our agenda, the approval of minutes from March 22nd, 2022.
Move to approve.
Second.
Madam Clerk, can you call for the vote, please?
Pugh?
Yes.
Horatio?
Yes.
Barron?
Yes.
Newton?
Yes.
And English? Yes. Motion approved.
Thank you, ma'am. Now to item 3, the adoption of the agenda for April 26, 2022.
Move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Are there any changes or deletions?
No, sir.
I'm sorry about that, ma'am. All right. Did we get a second?
Yes.
Yep. Madam Clerk, can you call for the vote?
Pugh?
Yes.
Horatio?
Yes.
Barron?
Yes.
English?
Yes.
Newton?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you, ma'am. Now on to item number 4, which is items for action, the amendment of the fireworks ordinance. As we looked at this fireworks ordinance, there's a few questions that we need to have answered by staff. So I want to move that we move.
Mr. Pugh?
Yes.
Sorry. I sensed a motion for deferral that was coming, which is non-debatable. I wanted to add 2 questions to that list, if it would please the body.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Newton, you're recognized.
Thank you. So I just have 2 questions that don't need to be answered now that can be part of the conversation. And if you look at page 12 of our agenda actually, I got that question answered myself before I came. So if you look at item D, any violation of this section is punishable by up to 30-day what is the intent there? And again, I don't need that answered now, just want it to be clear.
No, that part actually is changed in the revised version. So this is the old version. What you're looking at the very end, is the actual page 27.
Gotcha. Sorry, I was very tired when I read this last week, so maybe I missed that as I was just looking through. Okay, then let me just turn then to page 28. I did have a question about item F, as in Frank. It's the top of the page. Mm-hmm. After 3 separate violations, etc., the location is declared to be a public nuisance, and I just wanted to understand what that meant. We do have a public nuisance ordinance in the context of a business, but what does that mean with my neighbor down the street who's, popping fireworks late at night?
What that does is that allows the sheriff's department or a lawful officer to deal with the situation, because the problem with the previous version is that it was a criminal violation and had the 30 days and $100 fine as a criminal violation. So this changes it to a civil violation, and once it's declared a nuisance, if there are any further violations, it can be dealt with by the sheriff's department.
Thank you. And again, this can be part of whatever you bring back. I guess I just want to understand what other categories of things count as a public nuisance, so that I understand kind of the class of offense that this is. Is it the same as if someone's dog is barking late at night, or is it something that's much more egregious? So again, I can take my answers later. I'm trying to let you defer, Chairman Pugh. I just wanted to add that to the list.
Councilwoman Barron, you recognize.
Thank you. Jump in this game of double dutch we got going on. And so with that, Attorney Wright, I do want to know, I think we're using the Attorney General's, what's it called? Opinion right. From 2011. Not that I need to remind y'all of what year it is. I would like to see if there's something that is more recent that we can refer to, or a ruling is a ruling, and it doesn't matter how long it is, because for me, times change.
Right. Well, the thing is that there are more recent ones, but this is they refer to this. So in the legal world, precedent doesn't change until something else changes it. So it doesn't matter if it was 1850 until something else changes it, it stands.
Last order stands.
Right.
And so just being who I am, I would like to even say that, we pushed the envelope a little bit on this one, just because it's been so long, and I would like to see it this move forward with the action that is needed for it to be to really have some teeth in it. And I don't want this to be something that we're just going through the motion again to say, oh, we have an ordinance in place, but the police are called, the deputies are called, and then they're quiet for an hour, and then they're back at it again because they know, hey, nothing's going to happen. And so we've had that conversation here at this dais many times over the past year about things that we just don't have that stick. So I hope that we can put something together that sticks. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Ratio.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Attorney Wright, you indicated that 3 times the charm, and the sheriff can come in at that point if a public nuisance is so declared. But what does that mean when the sheriff comes in? What will be his action and or result of his action?
I mean, that's kind of left up to the sheriff's department and what they do when a property is deemed a public nuisance. Because it's the property, not the person. It's the property that's deemed a nuisance.
You get the sheriff to come down here?
Probably not the sheriff.
Not the sheriff.
Happy Polis, you recognize, sir.
Man's best friend.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
What can I do for you, Councilman?
The question is, once a location is declared a public nuisance, what are normally the procedures that the sheriff's department would follow? And then what, if any, penalties would be levied against that location?
So when it comes to a private residence, I don't know that we have any authority to declare private residence a public nuisance. When it comes to like a bar or nightclub, this council previously passed the ordinance that allowed the sheriff and the county administrator to padlock a business pending a hearing in front of this body. So to answer your question, in all honesty, I don't know what this looks like beyond what has already been set as a precedent by the council, sir.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Attorney Wright, the reason I was asking that and wanted to know is because it specifically states in the opinion from the Attorney General that you cannot have any type of a criminal violation in the enforcement of this. And if a public nuisance is declared and winds up moving forward, the end result being a criminal violation, I would think that would null and void this ordinance, and we need different language at that point, because it now has transgressed from what looks like to me a civil penalty or a civil charge to a criminal charge at that point.
Right. Well, it wouldn't be a criminal violation, just as when, say, a nightclub is padlocked to shut down, and the sheriff deals with it, but it's not a criminal charge. It's still a civil penalty, so it's not a criminal violation in that.
Okay, it does remain civil.
Right.
Okay, and should we get questions out here or just forward them to the attorney? Forward them. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilwoman Teratio, you recognize.
Thank you. And I know we're kind of looking very specifically at this item F about 3 separate violations. I suppose we should, or maybe it would be prudent to think about a time frame, because if it's over 10 years or 15 years, I mean, we don't have a time parameter. It could be all happen in the same night. So probably could we think about that? Or is that advisable? I'll ask it that way.
Well, it's up to, as far as how many violations and how long you want that's kind of determined by, what council wants to do as far as that part. We just put the 3 violations because, it depends on how you want it to be, whether you want it to be 3 violations within 6 months or a year or, 5 years. It just depends on how you want to do it.
Is there any kind of way that we could determine a best practice or what would be advisable for a time frame?
The only thing is that in this thing, if we're talking about if it happens, because it could happen at say a business, or it could happen at a private residence, how do you want to do it with if it is a private residence? For example, I think there is something with a business that's declared a public nuisance, what determines how many times you can have certain violations. But I think it may be a little different with, like, say, you go into someone's house. So that's some considerations that need to be taken in if you want to actually put a time period on that.
Yeah, I guess, could that be part of the questions, that we would do some kind of research or get some feedback from the sheriff's department about that? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Also, Attorney Wright, I would also like for us to look at mirroring this time limit with our noise ordinance that states 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. And then we also need to take a look at what does that look like with an apartment complex with people going and coming from different units. So for me, it's really, really important that we get this right. Again, like I said, the last meeting, this is a military town, and we owe it to our heroes to make sure that we take care of them when it comes to this fireworks ordinance. We have a lot of our constituents that deal with PTSD, and we have one of the largest military installations in the country right here, not even 10 miles away from here. So I think we should really, really make sure that we nail this down and get it right the first time. So when we release it, it'll be something that the sheriff's department can back us up on, and we can make those people feel comfortable about their living conditions when it comes to those holidays that are in question. So with that being said, I would like to move to defer this until next month's meeting, pending the questions and pending the answers that we get to our questions from staff. Can I get a motion for that? Yeah. Yes. Madam Clerk, can you call for the vote, please?
Pugh,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes?
Barron,
Yes?
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Let's move to item 5, items pending for no action required. A, can we get an update from staff on where we are with 8 as it pertains to absentee landlords?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, and I'll certainly turn it over to if ACA Jensen is in the room or on the. But in the packet on page 3, I believe this is one of the items that staff was prepared to make a presentation or to this committee at its May meeting. So, Mr. Chair, that item we would expect to come back before you at the May meeting to give you that information.
That's good enough, sir.
Okay.
Right. And on to item B.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Item B. This is an item that is supposed to be going back before the Planning Commission. So the item will be addressed by the Planning Commission before it comes with a recommendation from them to the council as a part of that process.
Thank you. Mr. Malinowski, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't understand on both B, Bravo, and D, Delta, why it says a recommendation after staff has done research in these requests, why the recommendation is made to the Planning Commission, and then the administrator says, and from there, they'll forward a recommendation to the full council. If it is here in this committee, and the committee has requested some type of information, and I would think that the information should come back to the committee for them to vet and review, and at that point decide what they want to do regarding if it has to go to the planning commission or should just go to the council, or maybe whatever information comes up will indicate that it's null and void and we can't do anything with it. So I think it should come back to this committee, not be going to the planning commission. I think that's premature. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malinowski.
Mr. Chair, may I
Yes, sir.
get some clarification? And certainly if staff is here to answer this question, but my understanding, Mr. Malinowski, was that because of the flow of information and how this actually comes to the committee, to the council, that this item would really be in the purview of the planning commission. And that's why, not that we don't think that if council requests something. So I could be wrong about that, but my thought was that, my understanding is that there are certain items that are handled by the planning commission as a part of their function, and that process then rolls up to county council. So taking an item that would normally be in another committee and taking their function would create just an imbalance in the process. But I could be wrong about that, Mr. Malinowski, so I'll ask my staff to speak to that for clarity, but that was my understanding as to why it was listed that way.
I always thought, if I may, Mr. Chair, I always thought that motions made and forwarded by the chair of council to a committee need to remain in the committee until the committee does something with it after getting all the information and decides where it should go and makes a recommendation from that committee for a motion. Otherwise, it seems to me a lot of the motions that are being made would all of a sudden be taken from the committee and given here, there, and everywhere.
So I don't want to misspeak, so I'm going to try to tread careful. There are certainly probably some items that the council sends to a committee, but there's also some questions that we're still working through with what items should be sent to committee as opposed to what should go straight to council, as opposed to what should be, in certain places. So I understand your question. I would certainly follow the council's process, but that's my understanding as to why it was that way. But I'm good with finding out what we actually need to do, and I take your information with the appropriate way that you're presenting it.
Hear from you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, any last questions? All right, item C. Do we have an update, a date set for that conservation workshop?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our clerk has been really working diligently to try to help me get a work session scheduled, and she sent out an email to council to see if there were any preferences on dates that they had, because what we want to do is make sure that everybody that wants to participate can participate so that we have the robust discussion so we don't have to go back and forth. Our clerk does have 2 possible dates, I think, that she can present to us, and we can select a date now, and then if for some reason that doesn't work for everybody else, then we can adjust. Ms. Carrillo, what were those 2 dates?
I have sent out an email to full council for May the 31st for an afternoon work session, so I have not received full responses yet regarding that day, or if that day was a possible day or not.
How does that work for the members of this body?
Could you, is there a time?
I believe it was 4 in the afternoon.
4?
Let me check.
I'm open that day.
No. It's a bye-week, so no council day.
There are no other council meetings scheduled on that day.
Hello?
And that was part of why, now that we're talking, I had her send it to full council because I wasn't sure what people's schedules were, and I didn't want to be the person who tried to call a work session right after a holiday.
I did not send a second day to the whole council, but we could try for June the 14th.
That's not gonna work.
So that's why I sent one day, but However, if you like to, after I spoken to Councilwoman Newton, it was proposed to set a 2-hour workshop. So trying to find a 2-hour workshop within our budget schedule has been kind of tight. So for a possibility is May the 31st, or on, if you want to keep it on a Tuesday, it will be on June the 14th.
All right, so I think, sorry to the body, Ms. Carrillo, you and I will have to get back together because the 14th categorically won't work. But we can find some options, and I don't know if people looking at their calendars just have an alternate date suggestion you want to throw out now. Otherwise, we'll play dueling calendars off the dais.
So is May 31st off the table?
It's fine for me. I don't know how it is for others.
So Councilman,
Let's try to schedule a date outside of the meeting and give more options. That way we can go back and forth amongst each other and figure out what date suits us best. Even if that looks like we have to do some type of virtual for those that can't be here. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair and Ms. Newton, I don't know about May 26th, which is a Thursday. We have a special called meeting for 1 hour from 6 to 7. What? And I'm saying that's all we have. I'm guessing it's relating to a budget or a public hearing. Why couldn't it be scheduled prior to that 6 o'clock, May 26th special call meeting? That's my recommendation.
So maybe Mr. Pugh, why don't we consider that our working date, and we'll let our clerk confirm that after the meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
Mr. Chair? I just wanted to speak to the question Mr. Malinowski had about items, I think, B and D. And I wanted to look at the statute just to make sure. The Planning Commission is a little different than other committees and commissions in that there's a statute that governs it. So the council has the option to either deal with zoning things and these type of things itself or establish a planning commission. But if a planning commission is established, then those things are in the purview of the planning commission before they come to council. So that's why I think that staff had that it will go before the planning commission, because the statute that allows for a planning commission to be established has certain items that are in the purview of the planning commission. So, of course, they still have to come to council at the end of the day, but they are dealt with in the planning commission. And I think that's why the staff did it that way, because of the statute.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Comments from the body? All right. Move on to item D. Mr. Brown.
Yes, sir, that was a similar item to item B, and what the county attorney was just addressing, sir, and the staff plan on following that process. And then ultimately, of course, we will come back with this committee and to county council.
Comments from the body? With that being said,
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Madam Clerk, can you call for the vote, please? Yes.
Teratio,
Yes?
Barron,
Yes?
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Meeting is adjourned.